very first person I'd love to introduce to this very special broadcast is my good friend, Hilary Walton, who is the CISO, Chief Information and Security Officer at Cordia. So, Hills, welcome.
Hi, Matt. How are you?
I'm really good, thank you. It's really lovely to see you again. For those regular viewers of these live events, we've had the opportunity to interview Hilary on a couple of occasions now. So how's things at your end?
Yeah, really good, really good. Quite busy, in the world of cyber, things kind of just haven't stopped. Since the pandemic, it's been increasingly, we're seeing a lot of more attacks.
Yes.
So yeah, that's kind of kept things pretty busy for me, given I look after security of Cordia and some of our customers as well.
Yeah, for sure. So look, definitely really keen to delve into some of that. Also, perhaps for those who haven't heard of Hilary Walton before, can't imagine why, would you like to let us know a little bit about yourself and perhaps maybe even do some plugs about some of the awesome social media bits and pieces that you do too?
Oh, thanks, Matt. Thanks for that opportunity. So I'm in the cybersecurity game. However, I started my career as an organizational psychologist. And I sort of made a segue into security when I was working over in London. I worked for MI5 and then I led the London Olympics for around their information security program before coming back to New Zealand. And I think, the world is basically and COVID really kind of helped us as well, but the whole world is going digital, and there's such a close link between that and actually making sure we go digital safely and securely. I'm really interested in digital transformation and cybersecurity, and so I have a YouTube channel and a podcast called the Digital Culture Ideas Show. And I feature guests and things on that as well. So that's been a really fun thing to get into.
Yeah, and very successful too. I'm a regular listener and viewer of your material. I think it's fascinating. Such a hot topic at the moment, and clearly for the right reasons. And then, am I right in thinking you're also a published author as well?
Yes, thank you. That's right. I with the psychologist background, I ended up writing a book around security culture. So, how do you really motivate staff to be more secure and to be vigilant? And, often security can be seen as a bit of a blocker. So the book's basically a toolkit for anyone working in security or HR or even just business leaders to get hold of a few ideas to make staff more security conscious.
Yeah, amazing. So obviously there's been an awful lot of media attention around cybersecurity in recent months. I read an article, I recall at the end of last year, that was describing 2020 as the pandemic, not only for the COVID, but also pandemic within cybersecurity as well. So perhaps could you give us a bit of a sense as to where things are at currently?
Yeah, look, it really hasn't stopped. And I guess it makes sense, because if you think of what happened during lockdown and the pandemic, is we all went online. A lot more organizations became more connected to the internet with remote access and things like that. And what that did is it just meant that it widened that attack surface for cyber criminals to come and do damage to businesses. And then over in the US, basically they're more aware of the kind of vicious cyber attacks that they can get. So they've kind of protected themselves a bit more, whereas countries like Australia and New Zealand, we've still got some quite low cyber security maturity in some ways. And, and particularly with the number of small to medium enterprises that we have in New Zealand, they can tend to be, don't have as good processes around security. And so that can make them kind of more of a target as well. So it's kind of a number of things that have all happened at once. And it has meant that there's been a lot more cyber events.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, I'm going to follow up on that question. You might want to try and flip over to your other Wi-Fi connection. I've just noticed your screen's just gone still. It might be me. But yeah, it's a really interesting point around the small and medium-sized enterprises in New Zealand. Obviously, I believe it makes up around about 90% of all businesses in New Zealand. And so with those types of businesses in mind, what are some of the simple measures and some of those simple things that business owners and business managers can do today to make themselves a little bit more safe or a little bit more savvy when it comes to information security?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just checking. Can you still hear me okay, Matt? And hopefully my
Definitely
videos
hear
come
you.
back.
Yeah. The video hasn't quite come back yet, but I can give you some assurance that it's not one of those terrible moments where you're pulling a funny face.
All good, all good. Yeah, so I mean, there's a lot of simple things that the businesses can do to protect themselves, and they should do as well, you know. So what happens, particularly with things like ransomware, it's often that people have clicked on something that they shouldn't and entered their credentials, or they've opened a file that they shouldn't. So that cybersecurity training is still really important, that we teach people, you know, how to look out for a fishy kind of email and you know, and sometimes if you can gamify that process, it makes it more engaging for people. But they also need to make sure that their networks are segmented as well, so that if the baddies get into one part of the network, that it won't spread to other parts. Backups are really important as well.
Okay. Yep.
But not just backing up your information, actually having a separate backup that's separate from your kind of operational environment. So what that's going to do is that if your information gets corrupted or encrypted by bad people, so this ransomware piece, then you've actually got a backup that's ready to go that you can load back from.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, because I was actually just thinking about this last night, is that I'm thinking about updating my computer finally after many years of kind of tolerating very slow load up times and bits and pieces. But in the first instinct was all of my materials on the cloud, therefore it's safe. You know, I've got my passwords and I can always access it. But that's not the case, is it?
Yeah, so it's cloud can be really good, because particularly if you're going with really big providers, then they are doing a lot of the security work for you, but there's still a role that the person, the user or the business owner of the cloud has as well. And that's why you still need things like multi-factor authentication, so that if they get your password and login, then there's like an extra layer of defense that they need to get through. And that's important not just on your work accounts, but on all your personal accounts that you can muster as well. So LinkedIn, Apple, Google, you know, all of those accounts should have that 2FA just to help you out.
Yeah, that makes sense, especially now where suddenly using the credit card to buy things online a couple of years ago was still kind of seen as a bit of a risky thing to do. But, you know, due to circumstances, it became a necessity. So now suddenly our banking details, our private information is now suddenly all over the internet, isn't it?
Yeah, that's it. And I can't stress the importance of, and it sounds so basic, but you know, really good password practice as well, that you're not reusing passwords over your work and personal accounts, that you've got unique passwords on all those accounts. And like you might have hundreds of accounts I'm talking about here. And that's why a password manager is so important as well, because it'll help you have really long and strong passwords that are unique, and you won't have to remember them. You'll just have to remember that one password to your password manager.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, so would you recommend anyone and everyone use something like that?
Oh, absolutely, hands down. Because there's just no way you can remember those, and it's not a complete kind of silver bullet, if you like, but it will get you in a much more secure place. And yeah, so everyone needs a password manager, and there's some really good cheap ones, or ones that aren't too expensive, like $30 for the whole year, and it will sync across your different devices and just super help you out. So I'm a huge proponent of password managers.
Excellent. Okay, that's really good to hear. Again, like for many of us, it may be still quite unfamiliar tech. I know for me personally, on my phone, I've got these funny little apps and logos that tell me about password managers, but actually, if I'm honest, I haven't got around to using it yet. So clearly something that needs to be done, huh?
Yeah, definitely. And once you just download one, every time you visit a site, it'll ask if you want to save it in the password manager. So you actually, it kind of once you just download it, it will build momentum, and you'll be off. So yeah, anything like
Awesome.
LastPass or 1Password, super user friendly, and
Amazing.
yeah, they're brilliant.
Oh, cool. That's really awesome information. Thank you. So look, I've made a promise and a commitment to myself to keep to time and schedule. We've got a couple more minutes before we head over to our next guest speaker. So in terms of any other further advice or tangible actions that people could take today to either make themselves safer in the information technology space
Mm.
or wiser. Are there any final tidbits or information you'd like to share?
Yeah, there are a couple. So the first one I just want to point out is that some people think that cyber attacks are just for kind of big companies to deal with. But
Mm,
what we're seeing is that ransomware attacks are like pretty much closing schools,
mhm.
hospitals, and derailing everyday life. And so it's actually
Yeah.
affecting individuals now, like just regular people at home, just, just working in the community. And there's a big, it's kind of changing from just a security issue to safety issues, Matt, which I think is
Yeah.
why it's great, that you've you had me on to speak about
Yeah.
cyber because they are so connected.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, you want to be prepared so that you've got your security measures in place so you don't get attacked. But if you
Mm,
do, it's really important that you find out as quickly as possible. So
yeah.
if you can find a way to have good visibility of your network and spot that unusual behavior, and
Mhm.
sometimes you need some professional help to
Mm,
kind of monitor your networks and have that visibility. But
mhm.
that is pretty much gold, because if you find
Yeah.
out, then you can act really fast, and that'll
Yeah.
reduce the damage to your business.
Yeah. Yeah, brilliant, a brilliant piece of advice. I've experienced it twice now, where suddenly I can't get access to my emails, or um, someone is suddenly sending emails on my behalf, and it's a horrific experience.
Mm.
It can really, damage your business for a few hours, if not days, weeks at a time.
Absolutely, and so
Mm,
stressful, Matt. Like I often
yeah.
hear people who go through experiences like that, like yourself, like
Mm,
this the stress on on their relationships and
mm,
money, and trying to manage the bad outcome of a cyber attack. You just
mm.
yeah, I mean it can happen to anyone, but try and avoid it if possible is definitely the key message.
Yeah, fantastic. Hills, once again, thank you so much for being such an ongoing supporter of the mission and what we're up to at this end. A natural key ally, really. I think we're both very much on the same page when it comes to making a difference and a positive impact. So, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to join us
No
today.
problem. I love this, Matt. This is a really cool format. So well done. And yeah,
Oh, thank you.
very happy to support your 1 and 8.
Yay, awesome. Thanks, Hills. All right, look, you have an amazing day, and we'll line up a time to catch up sometime soon. Yeah.
Sounds great. Okay, take care.